Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Life Optimized podcast. I am Dr. Neil Paulvin, where we talk about optimizing your health, your life, your business, and your workout. So we are really excited today about this incredible guest that we have. We have Kirsty Godso, a Nike trainer extraordinaire, entrepreneur extraordinaire, definitely a multi-hyphenate to the nth degree. So we're going to talk about working out, how to optimize your workout. We're going to try to emphasize in terms of working out, especially for females, how it may be different than a male, how to supplement your workout, whey protein, collagen, all those different things, how that's going to work. And then we're going to talk about just in terms of optimizing your health and being healthy, especially someone like Kirsty who's going like coast to coast up to the Nike and so on. So thanks for hopping on, Kirsty. It's really a pleasure to have you on.
I'm so happy to be here. Honestly, if you haven't followed me on Instagram before, or if you do, you know that I talk about Dr. Neil Paulvin all the time because he changed my life. Like, so it's always a pleasure to chat with you. I feel like I fire a million questions your way. You're such a source of knowledge for me, and I'm always grateful for you.
I appreciate it. So let's hear more about Kirsty. So it's been about Kirsty is a New Zealand-born LA living fitness enthusiast and expert. She has been representing Nike as a global trainer for over 10 years, traveling the world, leading large-scale fitness events, filming and shooting the Nike Training Club, and Netflix training media and educating Nike trainers around the globe. Her unique training combination of HIIT, strength, and Pilates has seen her as one of the most sought after A-list trainers across fashion, music, and entertainment. Her passions expand the scope of wellness and nutrition, gym design, and branding. Kirsty is the founder of Madelove, a premium protein powder company that aims to bring awareness and attention to the ingredients in our food. She's also designed a boutique gym Equinox in Manhattan and regularly partners with hotels to maximize our wellness offerings and gym environments. One of her passion projects is Pyro Girls, a community-based workout program she founded to support women's mental health through movement and girls in sport. With a double business degree alongside her training certifications and extensive teaching background, she's lighting up the wellness industry in more ways than one. You definitely are. So all I have to say is I have patients, friends, I see it on social media that used to have one of the hardest workouts that they've ever done. Is that something that you just kind of pride yourself on? Is that something that developed over time? Or I mean, I've seen your workouts, I mean, make grown men cry. So
Honestly, I don't know what happens, Doc, but like when the microphone is on, like something different happens. And I just sort of, I don't know, I encompass some other form of energy. But I really think I've always loved fitness and I've always loved sport. So I kind of try and put that enthusiasm into my teaching. And I guess I have no boundaries, like I really did start out with my fitness career with high intensity. So I think I've always been known on the intense end of the spectrum. But yeah, I really like to challenge people in their workouts. I always try and make sure it's like a functional workout, not just a beat down, but they are definitely tough.
how did you get into training? Was it a business thing? Were you an athlete growing up? Where did it all start from?
I was always super interested in sport. Both of my parents are professional golfers. So, I grew up watching a lot of discipline and dedication and practice. But I actually studied business first. So I got a double business degree in finance and marketing, but I loved fitness. And so I started to work for a fitness company as a brand manager. And then as I sort of worked with them, we came up with the concept at the time about having the first like high intensity series backed by science. And that would be available to multiple people because this is over 10 years ago. It was just for athletes, right? So we're talking 2010, 2011. So we came out with these like group training classes with Les Mills, and it was called Grit. And it was about 30-minute high intensity workout series. You could do a cardio one, a strength one, or a plyometric one. And they were just so crazy hard, but we had the data to back them up. We had the exact intervals and recoveries paired out. We were doing tests on athletes, and it was amazing. And it really transformed my body as well at the same time. And your cardiovascular fitness just goes through the roof. So that was kind of the start. So interesting enough, I was like one of the main presenters of it and one of the faces of it, as well as being the brand manager of that program, which is eventually how I started to work with Nike and everything else. But it had never been my goal to be a trainer. Once we came up with the idea, we wanted some young, fresh faces to give fitness a different look, because in New Zealand at the time, it was still very bodybuilding dense, or it was a slightly older demographic of teachers, not young people that were like 22. So before I knew it, my friend and I were getting certified in all these different classes. I then further went on to become a personal trainer. And it was always meant to be temporary at first, and I was like, oh, you know what? Actually, like I kind of like this, even though in the beginning I was mortified. I was like, I can't put that microphone on and teach classes. Like, what's going to happen? And it's really crazy because now that's so many years ago, like 13 years ago, and I'm still doing it.
So you've been through the whole kind of transformation and how fitness used to be in a classroom. You worked for most cases, you worked for somebody else. If you got really lucky, you built out a program. Now the paradigm is kind of flipped for everybody, where a lot of people, trainers, male and female, are doing things more on internet or have a program online, and then maybe it goes into a gym format, and it's kind of totally flip-flop, and people become popular online, being either an quote unquote influencer or all of that. So you've
Yes.
kind of seen both, where I know you're developing an online program that's coming out soon, and I think it gets amazing. I know you used to train at smaller gyms in Manhattan, and now you do more private training, but it's kind of amazing how things have kind of flip-flopped. We used to just work for a big corporation. Now it's mostly you're the brand. I
Yep.
mean, most people know your name more than they're going to talk about you being with Nike or any of the other brand coordinations there, which is kind of amazing. And it says how
Yeah.
important the trainer is.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think that trainers used to really have not that much power, and it's like not great pay when you're teaching classes in big gyms or personal training. And you have to be really passionate, like you really have to want to do it. It's not as easy a job as a lot of people think, oh my gosh, you got to be so patient. You got to be really punctual. You got to have endless encouragement, and you have to be okay that your workout comes last and you probably have like 10% of your energy left. Whereas I think a lot of people think, oh, you guys just work out all the time. You're paid to be fit. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize that I still spend like anywhere from 15 to 20 hours a week personal training my clients on top of the work I do for Nike, on top of the work I do building this fitness platform, and on top of the other like contract jobs that I do for designing gyms and running my own protein powder company. So there's actually not that much time left for my own workouts, but it's been really interesting. Like when I sometimes say to people, I'm like, yeah, I was on fitness DVDs. People are like, wait, what? Like DVDs? I'm like, oh yeah, guys, like I've been on the circuit, but it's amazing to see how far fitness has come, but I do think it's a little difficult for the general population to understand like who should I actually be following for this, like who has the correct expertise and experience, because it couldn't be more easy for someone to make their own fitness app now, or like have an online platform. So um I there's a lot of people too that I really respect who have been around in the industry for years who are like tried and true. But I do love to see a lot more availability because, the goal is that more people are working out. So, everyone's going to have a different taste of what type of trainer they want. I love filming for Nike, and I've filmed for Nike for so many years. I'm in my 11th or 12th year of being with them now, but I'm also now allowed to have my own online platform, which is super exciting. So I'll still be filming for Nike, but I will have an online platform on kirstygodso.com that gives people access to the strength training programs that I do myself and with my clients, but also the Pilates style workouts I do and the cardio style workouts that I do. So I'm really excited for that because it has been a long time coming, Neil, of filming for
I,
other people.
I can imagine. I mean, I know the people that talk about you, and it's nice to now you've taken the brand to another level. So now you train mostly have a more of a female centric, I think, clientele and brand. So
Yeah.
why is it so important for females, especially? I mean, again, I know that my patients that see you or talk about you are kind of in the younger demographic. So why is fitness so important to them, and working with taking your classes and using fitness as something that's going to build them up both personally, professionally, health wise? I know it's been a big passion of yours. So female health has just
Yeah.
exploded now, and it's you're kind of one of the people who are taking to the fore here. So
Well, I mean, I think that for women, we have so many variables to work against, right? Like our bodies are so complex, and you're very familiar with this because you're a master at helping especially athletic females balance their hormones out, which is one of the things that can go AWOL pretty quickly when you're working out a lot. But I think it's really like women want to be trained by what I actually love having a male personal trainer, to be honest. But as I've got older, I've realized I'm like, you guys, there's just certain things that men don't understand what that when we're saying as women, we're like, A, maybe I don't want to feel like I don't want to do the work so much of my quads and shoulders, or like two, like this is what's happening in my menstrual cycle, and like that just doesn't feel good to me right now, and like my energy's not there, or like my mood isn't there. So I think it's just an understanding with women without always having to communicate. We can just identify the things. And I personally love with women, I feel like you're always fine tuning. Like nothing is easy. Like when I go train a male, I'm like, oh my God, this is so easy. It's like couldn't be easier. But training women, it's like there's so many variables. And so I like that because it keeps me on my toes. Um, I think I have a unique skill set in the way that I train my clients, because a lot of my clients are in the entertainment industry, whether it be music, fashion, or film. And, there's a very specific body type that typically they kind of already have a certain shape. And then we're sort of, keeping it in order for what they do for their job, which isn't always easy, because it's like you can't just do whatever you want. You have to really be super specific and dialed on that type of work. But for me personally, on my exercise journey, I've found the more that I've shared like what I do, the more you connect with women online too. Or like I had that too, or like I did something to my thyroid as well, or whatever. And figuring out how we can balance our training to have this really dynamic model of training that encapsulates strength, it encapsulates some sculpt workouts, like sanity walks and some cardio, but done appropriately, so we're not obliterating ourselves, because as you mentioned, women often use exercise for professional and mental reasons too, not just the physical aspect, right? Like we really do it as a confidence piece to feel more encouraged in other areas of our lives. And so many women I know lean on exercise as like a form of therapy. Not saying that men don't as well, but for women, like we really get agitated if we don't get our workout in. I don't know if you've ever seen or experienced that with women, but it's a big deal to us.
Very regimented. Women are much better multitaskers. They're regimented. They got to get that work in. And it has to be a specific workout, and they know exactly what they want to do. Men are like men are not as regimented, I think, at the gym a lot as the females are. So you mentioned like female hormones. And again, some people either during certain parts of the cycle don't feel like doing a heavy weight workout. Some prefer to do cardio. Do you kind of go on the vibe of what your client is saying? Hey, I'm really feeling a little fatigued right now. Or do you kind of a set program in your head and then you just kind of work it around them? Is it kind of go back and forth? Is it more, I'm the boss, give me a little bit of input here?
Well, with my clients too, it's like I'm always taking into account what their schedule is, like do they have a performance that evening? Like, are they going straight to set that day? Like what's happening? And then also just vibe checking their energy. So I always sort of have a rough plan in my head, because a lot of them I see 4 to 5 times a week. So we're trying to get enough variance in the training. But if I always just immediately monitor their energy the moment they come in the room, and then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to change this or this or this. And I don't often tell them, because I don't want to stress them out by being like, oh, you seem lower energy today. Like, let's do something, I just don't say anything, and I just adapt programming. So it's, I'm really fortunate because I'm with the girls that I work with so much that like we're close friends, and so it's such an easy and open dialogue. Like no one's offended either way. We can have honest discourse about where we're at, what we need. And that makes it really fun, and I'm really grateful for that. I think it's, that's why it's always important for me to go back and teach classes where you might have anywhere from, I was just on Nike campus teaching over 200 people in a workout at a time. 3 people were pregnant. You're looking out, you're like, are there injuries? And it's sort of like you got to do Sudoku really quickly and figure out like, okay, what can I do? What modifications need to happen? And I think it's really important as a trainer to also keep that type of work in my schedule, so that I'm always adapting, and it's not too like laser focused, just one person at a time. It's like, can I keep the skill set of commanding a room and making sure that everyone gets the appropriate workout for them, which is honestly, it feels like doing algebra sometimes, like in a 60-minute period of time.
You now have an example of how fitness training is not easy.
Yeah. And you're always looking, you're always looking around the room like, okay, what's happening with their form? Like who needs more modifications? Can I get to them?
That's a good trainer. You can always judge a class where if that trainer is not trying to change somebody's form or try to accommodate other people who can't do a specific exercise, they really don't care. They're kind of there, just kind of have that set workout, and that's all they're going to do. And that's probably somebody you don't want to work with in the future. So the more you care, the more you help them, the better the workout. Now, you've mentioned mobility parts and Pilates. So when you train somebody, or even for yourself, do you have in your mind, okay, I want them doing, even if they're not working specifically with you, if they're on set and doing some stuff on their own, are you saying, okay, I want you to do 3 days of weights and 1 day of cardio and some movement training? Or is it what in your head is kind of the optimal 100%. I guess it depends on what their goals are, be it shooting and so on.
Yeah, so I always send my girls like programming, so like there'll be specific programming that they might do, which is like quite short, like before a performance or before a shoot day or something like that. If it's that morning, where it might only be like 15 minutes of work, sometimes even 10. And that's more of really a confidence piece to them, just so that they feel good and you kind of like get them moving a little bit, so their endorphins sort of start to pop up. I also find that people, when you use something that is like somewhat of a routine or discipline, it immediately makes you a little bit more calm. You come back to something that you feel confident about. So we use it as a tool like that. But if they're away for an extended period of time, there's always sort of programming, and I'll mix it up between strength, sculpt, and sweat workouts. So sweat doesn't necessarily mean high intensity. It might be like a endurance type workout. It might be just like a zone 2 cardio. It might be, it can be anything, or there might be a high intensity push, but I'll program that out for them so that they're getting the right amount of strength and sculpting and sweat in to keep us on top of our goals. So it's good because even when they're away, they're so good at doing their homework. So keeps my peace of mind in check. And then if there's any classes, like say they're in a city where there's like a trainer that I know that I love or something like that, I put that into their schedule too, because I think it's fun for them to go do a class and be around other people and, have that type of community element.
Do you bring in a nutrition component to that, or you work with other nutritionists that are really good depending on what their diet is? How does that work with you?
Yeah, so like I'll make recommendations and like sort of, help a little bit with supplements and things like that. And then nutrition, we have like honest discourse about stuff. But then typically if they have someone that prepares their meals or something, like we can stay in contact, the person and I, directly about what's happening or what's being tweaked. But a lot of them, honestly, they have a really healthy relationship with food, and they like to prepare their own food, or they, like they're super busy, so their assistant knows what food they're going to have. But we always definitely talk about like supplementation, because it's all a system, as you know. We watch so many women, especially, like we can really go wrong when we're over exercising and then our nutrition might be too strict, or it's like, it's just not matching the demands of what we're putting on our body. I know you and I met in an interesting time of my life where I think I'd gone like way too intense in every aspect of my life. And then we're like, okay, let's like dial that back and like fix everything at the same time.
Yeah, women, especially in females, unfortunately, when they're having cycles, you need to understand that pushing yourself is great, being a type A personality is great, but sometimes it's going to affect it, especially when it affects hormones. Then you got, again, your body saying, okay, red flag, time to kind of take a step back here. Let's look at some labs and data and just kind of, and then you go move forward again. And it's so easy to, usually pretty easy to fix. It's just women need to understand that when their bodies probably give more red flags than men do sometimes. So
I feel like we do. And quick sidebar for anyone that doesn't know, basically when I started working with Neil was like very end of 2019. And I had been trying to work with some other female doctors about where I was at. I hadn't had a cycle in 7 years. My energy was just so, I'm known for my energy. It's like one of the words people use the most to associate with me. And I couldn't have had less energy. And I really felt like I was acting. I was just dragging myself out of bed in New York. I kind of couldn't keep up with my schedule for the first time in my life. And I'm starting to look really inflamed, which was also strange because I'd always been like very lean. I always eat healthy, but I think in New York, I was guilty of drinking like, iced red eye coffees and stuff on an empty stomach, and just like going for hours back to back in work and not having proper nutrition. And so when I started to work with Dr. Paulvin, what I was excited about was having someone that made me feel so relaxed about it, rather than other doctors I've been working with made me feel very stressed and very guilty. They were like, you're probably not going to have children and all of these sort of dramatic things.
wow, okay, didn't know that part.
Yeah, they weren't even doing the appropriate testing to look at where we were at. Whereas when I started working with Neil, he was like, okay, wow, yep, you've definitely done a good job at like depleting a lot of these things. We've got to look at hormones, we've got to look at your thyroid, we've got to look at adrenals, and we've got to look at your cortisol, and we're going to handhold everything. And we're going to like lift you up at the same time. And I remember honestly, like 3 days into taking this regimen, and we did it as natural as possible with Neil, I was like, oh my God, I feel like myself again. I couldn't believe it. I felt like my personality was back. I felt like I had energy in my veins. And we got my period back in 7 weeks after not having it for 7 years. And the only hormone we took was progesterone.
Find the data and just work with it. And especially if people like you're healthy. So when we do with a healthy female who has all this, like I said, and no matter what, the most important thing is, it's the framework. If they're exercising and they have a pretty good diet and their sleep is pretty decent, like you say, when you're in LA or New York, sleep may be the first thing to go. But if you have the core down, a lot of things are just kind of cooking the rice recipe up. So I really appreciate you saying that.
No, it's amazing. And I've seen you, you came as a referral from a mutual friend of ours, Beck, and I've seen you, you've helped so many other females that I've referred. And I think it's important just for anyone that's listening that feels like, oh, I've made mistakes, like to remove some of the guilt and just take some application and work with someone that can look at the data and just help you like lift things at the same time rather than just like trying to isolate and focus in on one issue. I think this kind of brings me into something I wanted to discuss with you because as we were discussing about the fitness industry before, definitely like expanding. And as you'll notice, there's a big Pilates movement. And I myself love Pilates. I'm certified in mat Pilates. I've done Pilates for years. But I will say it's predominantly the Pilates gals that discriminate against high intensity. And I think they really leverage it because we see a lot of females burn themselves out, right? I love high intensity. I don't do it as much as I used to, but I just want to clear the record a little bit. And I'd love backup from a doctor that it's actually a very valuable form of fitness for everyone. It has amazing benefits for the body. The problem is we get addicted to it, right? Because you start to see these results. Women especially get addicted to the intensity because we like to conquer something hard. You're not meant to do true high intensity more than 3 times a week. And then around that, you should have sufficient rest. So what I see is all this communication online. People are like bashing high intensity completely. And they're like, I ruined my hormones. I did this, I did that. I personally never blame high intensity for what I did. I'm like, I was probably doing 18 HIIT workouts a week on top of my strength training. And when I would teach high intensity classes, I was doing the whole thing with people, and I was keto. I'm already celiac. I was already very lean. And I was drinking coffee on an empty stomach and blah, 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 like all these things. I'm like, guys, it's not the high intensity. It's everything as a picture. I'm not saying most people were doing 18 HIIT workouts a week, but even if they're doing it every day and they're being restrictive on all these other things or the coffee on the empty stomach, which we know wreaks havoc for hormones. So they're not taking an accurate scope on everything that was contributing to the situation at large. But I would just love for you to share some of your insight on that or on high intensity and what you see and know as a doctor.
Sure, just throw me into the fire there. Now, right now, no, what I'm recommending to both male and females now, like a lot of data has come out in the last year or so. It's not even days anymore. We want everybody to try to do 60 to 90 minutes of high intensity a week. That could be whatever works with your schedule. But it's also, we now know it's got to have some movement component to it, be it stretching, most likely more active recovery now. And then the other piece is, it's also about making sure that you're taking the adequate nutrients to maximize that workout. If you're working out, taking no pre-workout at all, be it with some form of nitric oxide or creatine or something, and then also make sure you're getting the adequate protein intake. Especially with a lot of females now, they don't want to take in so much protein. They're here, this thing or that thing is bad. If you don't take the amount of protein, you're not maximizing your workout. And if you're putting that time in, everybody's busy, it doesn't make any sense. So if you take I felt 60, 90 minutes, get the gram per protein, you're going to hear 20 different things out there. It's at least 0.6 to 0.8 per kg. Some people say 1, I don't love that in females as much, unless they're really trying to put on muscle. And then the other parts are make sure you're doing recovery is important. Mobility is important. If you're just doing there trying to max your bends or squats or deadlifting or whatever, it's only going to do so much. And that's when people hurt themselves. Like you mentioned, inflammation. If you already have, unfortunately, women have a little more inflammation just during their menstrual cycle, you're just you're losing, the bucket is leaking a little bit more and more, and then you're just working more and more uphill. So I agree with what you're saying. Mat Pilates is great. Mat Pilates works your core. As long as you're working hard, you're burning calories, but you're not automatically getting your heart rate up as much, and you're not working the muscles as hard. We both have colleagues that probably would disagree with that to some degree. I know some Pilates classes are insanely hard, but it's key getting the heart rate up, and you got to figure out what works for you. It depends also, like you mentioned, especially females, they want to have different goals. Some women don't mind being a little more muscular. Some women want to be very slender and just shapely. And that's also needs to be figured in. But that to me is kind of the core basics. It's not just the workout. It's the whole, like you mentioned, it's the whole package. I know you have made of your protein, the whey protein, which again has the best data behind it. So it's a whole package.
Yeah, it's like for me, actually, the reason why I founded Made Of was because, and for anyone that doesn't know, it's called Made Of because I want people to understand what their food is made of. So very simple, but a lot of us would read the nutritional table and not the ingredients. And the ingredients actually matter so much, especially when it comes to a protein powder. So if you are trying to maximize on the workouts, just like you were saying, like for me personally, after my workout, I have 1 scoop of Made Of whey protein isolate. So it's grass-fed New Zealand whey. So it's as clean as it comes. And as we know, whey protein isolate's the fastest to absorb into the system. Sometimes I put in a little bit of like L-glutamine as well. And that for me, I know like my muscle recovery is tenfold, so much better. And what I love is like, I understand for a lot of people, their concerns with having protein is that it hurts their stomach or it's this and that. And again, that really comes down to what are the ingredients in it, like what is the source of it. But yeah, I made it also because I was traveling the world so much and going to a lot of countries where I couldn't rely on always getting enough of the right food that I needed to support all the training that I was doing for Nike. So I was like, I really need like actually a good protein powder that like when I'm like sometimes I'm having to have it more than what I would necessarily like if I'm just like in LA or New York. But it's you see a lot of women really start to feel so much better and actually like get that lean muscle development that they want and feel a lot less bloated when they have healthy support of not only like a protein powder, but also like, like good protein sources with actual food.
I mean, that's part of the muscle building process. So without protein, it's only going to do so much. I mean, we know that if you have problems, you can always take things like digestive enzymes. You got to figure out what's the best protein for you, what source. Doesn't have to be
Yes.
whey.
And everyone will be different.
Yeah. So one thing just came out that's if you add sauna in afterwards, it also is going to help. If you do sauna like 2 or 3 times a week, it actually helps you build muscle a little bit better. So that's something that people
Really.
can throw in there.
I'm a big cold plunge girl. Like I love to contrast therapy, but I'm telling you, like it's way harder for me to sit in a sauna than it is for me to sit in a cold plunge.
Really, I'm the opposite.
Yeah.
I could be in the sauna all day, cold plunge. I'm in there as I do it. 'Cause I like it just to calm me down. I don't do it for any other reason, and it relaxes me,
Yeah.
and then I get out. And I also make sure I don't do it after like my weight workouts because we know
Yeah.
it'll definitely impede
So
them.
a lot of people actually don't know that, but I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the science is really like you shouldn't do it like until like 4 hours after your workout, right?
Exactly. So that's some people. It's starting to get kind of get spread out, but people kind of say, "I just went after my workout today." I'm like, yeah, you're kind of not
Yeah.
getting the benefit of either one. So
Yeah.
watch out.
I'd love to talk to you about because, I know you're a big fan of like BPC 157. You've given me some amazing IVs in my time. We've done NAD patches. We've done a whole lot of different things. I would love to hear what some of your favorite, and again, obviously it's individualized, but like some of these little like tips are for the active individual.
Right now, still the favorite is BPC 157. It's what peptides are for people who don't know out there. It's a small group of amino acids, and you can take them orally, inject them for people who don't get scared by injecting themselves. And it works really well because you mentioned it helps heal the gut, which is really helpful for a lot of people. It helps with brain health and also helps recovery and building muscle all in one little pill or injection. And that is kind of like so easy. Other things I love for the active individual now, I love create. I mean, creatine is something so simple, but it's something that we know is just helping again brain, muscle, muscle growing. It may help your energy levels. So again, something that you can take that's going to check off all those boxes. People are busy; they're not going to take. Most people aren't going to take 22 different things. So creatine, BPC. Um, Other things I love, I mean, again, you make sure that you're getting the correct amount of amino acids. I mean, that depends on, again, on what you're getting from your food. If you gain a lot of protein in your diet, it's great. Otherwise, you can definitely supplement. And then the other one that I like, I mean, I love, thing that we're learning more and more is some the mitochondria, which is the energy part of the cell. And there's either supplements out there called Fatty 15. Uh,
I take 30/15 and I swear it's made my sleep deeper.
there's data backing it up now. It's
It's crazy.
I've never seen a supplement grow so fast ever. And some people just say they love it. So fatty 15 is a different fatty acid like omega-3, that most people know omega-3 fish oil, but this works more on the cell membrane. It helps brain health. It does help take it at bedtime. It does help deep sleep. I get the
Yeah.
best sleep when I especially when I'm a little hyper, I take it to help my sleep. And they say it helps grow hair and for men and women. So it's actually that's kind of more anecdotal right now, but the people love it for that reason. So yeah, no, that's probably the kind of the ones I'm really. Another other one is something called Urth A, which a lot of the pro athletes have started taking because it helps build muscle and recovery. And it's something that they actually tried on the and started in the NBA with this for the Philadelphia 76ers and I think the Knicks. And the benefits, again, in a pill that you take it twice, 2 pills once a day, again, are really, really incredible. That's kind of 3 or 4 things I make sure that my active patients are doing. Again, the plus is making sure you're getting your regular sleep. And again, the diet's obviously the biggest part of the whole thing. So,
And I noticed such a difference too with my body, like when I changed country. So I hate to say it, even though I live in LA, which is deemed very healthy, my body does feel a lot less inflamed whenever I go to Europe, even when I go to the UK, when I go to Australia or New Zealand. Um, I think, living here, we are bombarded by advertisements for pills to like anti-bloat or anti this or anti that. I'm like, it's kind of an unparalleled amount of bloating that just happens or inflammation from living in America. Um, do you think a lot of it also can, like, obviously that's just something that is harder to work against, even if you're making healthy choices, but all these things that you're saying, like helping us be on our best behavior almost to like reduce some of those side effects. So like the sauna, like the help.
yeah, the U.S. is now, I mean, in terms of toxins, in terms of pollution, especially like New York and LA are top of the list there. But no matter where you are, in most of the U.S., we have like kind of highest levels where we have some of the unhealthiest diets now because we just kind of eat a lot of fast food. We don't cook anymore. We don't make our own food. I mean, we're not, I mean, except like in the farming areas in the Midwest, it's not like, oh, you mentioned Australia, New Zealand, some of the European countries, but that's part of one of their biggest industries is making food and farming and things. So I think it's just a different vibe. And we're not a lot of, we have the least, I forgot the data was, but we're one of the least, we have the fewest amount of hours going outside. We're not like when people again, Australia, New Zealand, some other areas, like the Scandinavian countries like Finland and Norway, they're outside all the time. Even Scandinavian country, it's cold. I mean, but people from Finland and Norway are some of the healthiest people in the world. Same with Australia and New Zealand, because the part of their culture is to be outside. And they're up in the morning. They don't always have desk jobs, and they eat healthy, and they also have interaction. Again, those societies have much more of a connection interaction. There's multi generations here, like you mentioned, the U.S. People are going back and forth and back and forth, and the families on. It's just the whole vibe. That's the way the U.S. is built. People are trying to kind of resurrect it, but it's the way the U.S. is. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. But people are trying to step by step kind of work it back. But those other societies are much healthier, and the data just kind of backs up comparing where we are. So
if you guys are listening to this is your call to action to take a few more moments outside if you can, a little sanity walk here and there. I
mhm.
definitely try and end my day once I like sort of finish. Like I have a toxic habit sometimes of working right until 9 p.m. on my laptop, but usually around like 5 p.m., granted, whatever time the sun's going down, I try and get like a little sanity walk, even if it's 20 to 30 minutes around where I live, just like decompressing and then come back inside before I cook dinner and stuff. And I've found that has made such a difference to my evening stress levels and really allows me to like sink into a better sleep. Like I know people always talk about, getting sunlight in the morning and all the science behind that, but I'm also like, I genuinely also believe like a little bit of time outside near the end of the day to help you decompress does so much good for your mental
Yeah.
health.
Oh, yeah. 20 minutes either. They say 20 minutes they're doing like a walk. You have a little bit of advantage. You're in LA. It's always warm out, but otherwise, even like that or a 20-minute, almost the opposite works too. A 20-minute nap, but no more than like 25-minute nap kind of helps reset you. But again, depending on what your lifestyle is, if you're working out in the morning, get the nap, or definitely, but walking, especially with no iPod, no podcast going, just kind of thinking to yourself, relaxing, whatever it happens to be, is so perfect.
I would love to talk to you about IVs because you
Sure.
hear some people call them expensive urine. Excuse my language, but you do. And I honestly feel like when I get a good IV, like a proper one, I feel such a difference. So I know you do some really interesting IVs and I've had definitely some good ones with you too. Can you disqualify this communication?
IVs have their benefit in most patients' wellness routine. It just really they first of all people need to understand why they're doing and what they're getting, I guess, because if you're just getting your fluids and hydrogens and vitamins, that's usually helpful. If your body needs it, if you have done lab work or you feel great, it may not be doing that much for you. That's number one. But other types of IVs, we've mentioned things. You mentioned NAD, which a lot of people find that if they're deficient helps with energy. People feel it. There's only a little bit of true science data out backing up NAD IVs, but it does help. We do what other IVs that that are really helpful. The IVs that we work that really are helpful for people are actually when we're really, really working on something. So, as you mentioned, inflammation, you can do BPC IV. There's some other supplements that we can use. Alpha lipoic acid, which is a natural supplement. Procaine, which is a natural, not natural, but an anesthetic. We use glutathione, which is a really strong, or NEC, which are really strong antioxidants to help people kind of deal with recovery. So that's where they really work when you're doing kind of an A to B. You have inflammation, let's help you recover. There's a couple things you can do also to kind of help with the brain health if you get a little brain foggy.
You recommend like methylene blue for brain fog, or
I love methylene blue. Methylene blue, two things. A, if you're on some type of antidepressant, make sure that person knows it, who's giving you have to be wary of it, and the person doing the IV has to be wary because it can be some interactions. And the funniest other part I assume people would know is that yes, you will urinate blue. It's okay. I got so many frantic calls or emails. Dr.
yeah,
P, my urine's blue, and
you made me a Smurf.
Smurf urine. We call it, yeah, Smurf urine. And it's like, it's okay. It makes sense. It's fine. You're okay. But yeah, no, it works is giving you energy. Because it works on the mitochondria and produces what's called ATP, which are kind of like anybody knows Pac-Man, like the little power pellets. It gives you energy. And it also can be antiviral and antibacterial. So we get a lot of patients who I get now who oh my God, like I had somebody come in today who's had a shoot coming up tomorrow, like, oh my God, I'm getting sick. I can't get sick. So we gave them a little bit of immune boost, like some vitamin C, and then we gave them the methylene blue. And that kind of is a nice little combo, really quick, takes about 25 minutes. And they kind of get the energy boost and they feel better. So
I've only tried it as a nasal spray.
nasal spray, people like it. It works for brain stuff.
Yeah.
As
But
opposed
if you want whole body, you should go like IV.
you can take the pills, but make sure with the pills or the powder, make sure that the pills some of the pills you can swallow because a lot of people have now complained that we're not just doing Zoom calls anymore, that their whole mouth turns blue. And if you have a meeting and you can't hide it anymore, you can't just cover your turn your video off
Yeah.
on your Zoom call anymore. And also this and doing methylene blue, if you do have some type of expensive dental wear, be it like I can't think of invisible braces, Invisalign or anything like that, it will stain them blue and it's almost impossible to get it out. I've had three
These are pros
clients
and
yell at
cons.
me, tell me like I look at I didn't do it, but I tell them just don't do it then, or you have to swallow it. But
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
simple things. Urinate blue and don't mess with your dental work if you spent like
Yeah.
$10,000 on getting good veneers. As we wind down here, I appreciate you coming on. So talk about where people can find, or I guess in your situation, where people won't be able to find you since you're everywhere. And then how they're going to access when the new site is coming out live
Yeah.
and made of and all this other stuff that you have going on.
Thank you so much. So my website is going to launch on March 1st. You can sign up at the moment. You can drop your email in, so you'll be the first to know when it's coming up, but it's on kirstygodso.com. You can find me on Instagram at Kirsty Godso, and you can find Made Of at madeof.life is the website, and we ship in the US and New Zealand. If you need international shipping, that pop-up will actually come up for you when you go on the website. So yeah, I hope that you guys like the workouts. I hope you love the protein, and I hope you take some good takeaways from this because I have learned so much about myself that I've been able to pass on to others through Dr. Paulvin. So I was really excited to get to talk to you today.
I appreciate it. And the new workout platform, it's for everybody. It doesn't have to be an elite athlete or
Yep,
anybody
it's
can
for
do it.
everyone.
So
Yep.
definitely check it out. It'll be on the show links and all the posts that we put about the podcast. So, and then definitely check out our Instagram and her workout. So again, thanks for coming on. And I
Thank
will
you.
talk to you soon and stay tuned for more episodes of the Life Optimized podcast where you learn how to optimize your health. See you guys later. Bye.